Hello, hello, and welcome to Gotham Livestream Tuesdays. We're here with Howard Kaufman from Lectrosonics.
Hello, Peter.
Hi, and Howard. Before we get started, you were about to just before we were on the air. You're about to tell me about your glasses.
The glasses, actually, the very year that I started at Lectrosonics, I had cause to visit with Bill Daly on the set of Law and Order. And besides just the fun of visiting that particular set, Bill noticed when I left that I'd left behind my readers, my reading glasses. And lo and behold, a week later arrives at my door one of these as a gift from Bill.
Was it, or is it those?
Well, they look identical, but
Purple?
this is 20 years we're talking about,
right.
and this is the third set.
Yeah.
But I don't leave, these just never get left behind, so
It's great.
it's great. Plus, the kids love it. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just the hit of every party I ever go to.
It's super.
Anyway, that's sort of not
But wait, why?
germane, but
Well, why were you visiting Law and Order? Do you remember?
actually, Bill was one of the first adopters of our UDR 200 receivers, and he had a nice rack of them.
I remember.
And in the beginning, we just were, helping him get going and understanding the menus and how to
Yep.
use it, most effectively.
Arguably, that was the most selective receiver.
No, there's no argument. It was.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah. It was. I remember
But
carting
it was a
it around.
monster too.
Yeah,
It was heavy and big.
yeah. Fine. All right. Anyways,
Yes.
so from the UDR to the new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff between those two extremes, but the new stuff is interesting mostly because we've changed the frequency band plan of each unit.
And by new stuff, we should say we have the LT transmitter. We have the LMB transmitter as well, and the little SSM with its battery charger, and then finally, there we go, the LR receiver. Okay, so what do you got? Tell us about it.
Well, the change in the frequency tuning range is not only significant now, but as we move toward a new reality in a few years, tuning a greater range obviously becomes a great boon. And so instead of the single block where each, you have to choose a particular block to operate in, and the blocks are 25.6 megahertz wide traditionally on our side. And you can ask me later why they're limited to that. But we've combined it so that each unit tunes 3 of those. So rather than having 9 blocks in the US anyway, because there's other blocks in other parts of the world that we don't talk about here. But right. Instead of 9, there are now 3 bands. So we've changed the nomenclature from block to band. So we have band A1, band B1, and band C1.
And each band is 75 megahertz wide.
Roughly. Now, there's a couple of differences. One of the differences, the band that includes 37, channel 37 is not legal for wireless mics.
Right.
So that's 6 megahertz is missing from that band.
Not yet.
Oh, no, channel 37 is yet.
All right.
Yeah, it is missing, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been illegal for a while to operate wireless mics in channel 37.
Are there plans to change that maybe?
Not channel 37. That's where the medical telemetry devices in hospitals live. And of course, there's danger if you get close to a patient wearing a heart monitor or something like that and interfere with that. That's not something you'd really want to take responsibility for.
No. All right.
So I do have this graphic up, and just to show you the relationship of the old blocks versus the new bands. And I do have band C1 showing, but I put it in red because it's sort of like a flag. And in general, because we're coming up to a new auction in the coming year, March 29th to be exact, we try to steer people at this point to stay below 600.
So tell me, this is not supposed to be about the FCC, upcoming FCC rules, but tell me a little bit about what we know. March 29th you mentioned.
Right.
So what happens on March 29th?
We're going to actually experience another auction where the FCC will auction the 600 megahertz band
Mm-hmm.
to the same kind of entities that bought the 700 megahertz band a few years ago in 2009.
Now, isn't that dependent on some other auction? Isn't there?
Well, it's sort of a double reverse auction in a sense. The first half of the auction, the first part of it, is meant to free up the frequencies voluntarily. So there's incentive for stations who broadcast in the 600s to give up their channel. And in exchange for that, they get a payment ultimately out of the proceeds of the auction.
And would they go somewhere else below 600 megahertz, or would they just go off the air?
Well, they have a couple of, well, three choices to be exact. They do have the choice to go off the air, and there would be a monetary payment for that. Another choice would be to relocate, to allow them to be relocated to a lower channel if there's a vacant one in that particular market. But the last choice is even kind of more interesting in a way. It is possible for a station to move and join forces with a station in the lower part of the band and share a transmitter, tower, antenna, and actual television channel. And that's because DTV signals include subchannels in a sense. So
Right.
I think anybody who's got an antenna and tunes knows that channel 2 could be 2.1, 2.2, etc.
Right.
So entities could enter into an agreement with each other and actually share the channel, and of course the expenses could be shared, and that might be a very important thing for certain markets where maybe a station isn't doing as well as they'd like, and they're looking at this could be an opportunity to have a new kind of arrangement.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So the first part of the auction would be involved in freeing up as many channels as possible in the 600 band. And then once that's done, then the other part of the auction can proceed, where the entities like T-Mobile and Verizon, etc., are presented options in each market for their bidding.
And so how long, from March 29th, how long do we think the whole thing will take place between when the auction, the first auction starts, and when there's a order for us to be off the air?
Well, there's a drop-dead date involved. So March 29th, if we just take that as a given, there's always a chance that that could be postponed, but it doesn't look very likely now to be postponed. So March 29th, this all happens as described. And then a short time later, and it's undefined, but it could be a few days, a few weeks, perhaps. A short time later, the FCC will post publicly the results of that auction. The date they do that publishing, that when they actually publicly make that known, the clock starts ticking with a 39-month drop-dead end date.
Okay. And so there's 39 months for the incumbent users, which is us partially, to get off the air.
Many people, yeah.
And then there will be immediate use of that spectrum, or then there's another period of time before that spectrum is being used by the people that...
This would be up to the
Whoever
the companies that win the bid.
that win the bid.
They have their own interests, of course, and they would want to be on the air as quickly as they can.
Right.
They're going to pay billions of dollars for these slots of frequencies.
But this sounds like a 3-year...
Well, from now it's really closer to 4.
4, right.
It's quite a distance away.
But still, for those people that need
Right.
to monetize their stuff beyond 4 years...
It would be best, if possible, to choose the lower 2 bands, the A1 and the B1 band.
Right.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's super helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super helpful. It would be nice if there was some way to share Channel 37. That's always been my peeve. That professional users know how to use this stuff professionally.
Yes.
And that 37 is just this sort of hole of empty spectrum.
You accompanied me on at least one trip to Washington with the FCC, and I've been on several, and they've never even budged whatsoever on Channel 37.
There's
so
no hearing.
Please do not hold your breath.
No, I will
not.
not. I will not. I'm advocating, and that's it. But we digress.
We do that well.
We do. All right. So we know one thing out the gate that's special about the new series is the wide bandwidth.
The wide bandwidth is.
And then tell me what else is input circuitry. The analog side, the DSP. Are any of that different in these?
Definitely changes on the input side. The basic microphone preamp topology is the same, but on the new SSM model, for instance, the actual input parameters, so impedance, level, polarity, and bias voltage, are menu selectable. And we've even included in the menu structure presets for the most common mics, like the COS11s, the B6, etc. So you could actually quickly match the input stage right to the microphone you're using.
And before, those settings were done in how you wired the connector itself.
Right, and the connector has changed, so this is significant. Because of the incredibly small, I don't know if you could even just see the comparison in size. The TA5 connector was a very versatile connector and sturdy. And with 5 pins, we were able to provide different options for wiring that included line level and different levels for mics. But this connector would not fit the body of the new SSM. This was particularly created to be as small as we could possibly make it.
I mean, it's amazingly tiny. It's
right.
Super tiny.
We originally, did that in response to the theater community. This is a tiny bit tricky to open the first time, and I have to admit, even with all my experience with our own gear, it took me 20 minutes to open the battery compartment the first time. So I'm going to reveal to the world the end of frustration. If you hold...
Wait, show it to the camera. Show it to the camera.
Yeah, here we go on the camera. Is that in there?
We're going to get focus, I think. Yep, we're on. All right, there we go.
So I'm holding it by the battery cover with my 2 fingers, and then using the 2 release latches here, it just lifts right up that way. Most people, and myself included, do the opposite, and there's no way to actually move it that way. So it's kind of upside down.
And talk to me about the battery.
Well, this battery is rechargeable, of course, lithium-ion, but it's a typical battery used in several manufacturers' cameras, SLRs, and other types of cameras. So it's easy to find.
Right.
It holds a great charge. It'll run this particular transmitter for about 4 hours on a charge.
Wow.
And you could just then pop in another one, of course. The charger, at this point, we're shipping the available charger, which is similar to the one you'd get with your camera if you bought a camera with this battery. But we also are about to release very shortly a 12-bay rack mount for it. And of course, you don't have to put 12 in, but you could put whatever batteries at the end of the day you need charged, and the next day you have a bank of charged batteries. So the other thing about the battery I just wanted to mention, we talk about this when we can. These types of batteries, believe it or not, are subject to being counterfeited. And we sell them directly to our customers, mainly because we know we're getting the actual bona fide
from Fujifilm.
Yeah, exactly. And we have had in our possession batteries bought at certain retailers, which I probably shouldn't directly mention right now. In a pinch, they do work, but they don't have the actual capacity that they're labeled with. So, just a little caveat.
So this is rated at 1,000 milliamp hours. Presumably, there's always going to be, hopefully, increased energy density. They can't change the size of this, but
over time, you mean?
Yeah, over time.
As the chemistries evolve,
improve. Sure.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, honestly, I'd love to see more than 4 hours.
So would I.
Oh, yeah.
So would we all.
Yeah.
Again, this was deliberately created as the smallest possible package, without having to sacrifice any of the audio quality or RF performance.
Amazing.
So if we can have everybody looking at the chart, you can very quickly see where this fits in with the other 2 transmitters, the LT. And the LT is essentially now replacing the UM400 series, which is just about discontinued.
Okay, so
that's knowledge.
UM400A is no longer going to be made.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's news.
Yeah, and this is our new version of it in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So this is switchable power from 50 or 100 milliwatts. It's
And
user choice.
does this have, you know, the UM400A I loved partially because it had the circular isolator
Right.
in the antenna. Does this have this?
So it does not, but it has some improvements in the final stage topography, circuitry, which make up for that. But the reason that we could not put the isolator in there is the isolators cannot tune a very wide frequency.
Right.
And they're too big to switch between three different ones.
Sure.
So don't mention the brand during this. Oh, no.
Too late.
Okay, too late. So you really don't have the choice with 75 megahertz tuning range
Yeah.
to have those particular isolators.
All right. But you feel like performance is on par.
Well, in tests, and the way you would test that in particular would be to have live, a couple of transmitters and actually, get as tightly coupled as you can and see if the final stage goes nuts and starts producing intermods. And
right.
These perform remarkably.
Good. I suppose we should take a step back. What we're talking about is a passive component that isolates
the isolator. Yeah.
Right, isolates the transmit circuitry from the antenna in the backwards direction,
exactly.
in the reverse direction.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, what could happen if with a poor design, which this is not, is that RF could get into that transmission circuitry and mix with its own frequency that it's generating and causes interference. But a good designed transmitter can get away without it.
Right.
Well-designed one. Right. All right.
Exactly.
Cool. Good.
So the LT is a leg up on the older UM400 in that you can switch to 50 milliwatts or 100. The slightly lower cost LMB is fixed at 50 and does not switch. And the little teeny one, the one that it's so small we just lost it, switches between 50 and 25 milliwatts. And in theater, most of the use is at the lower power levels in a theater.
Sure, because they can put the antennas so close. I replaced a mixer on a job, and I used the SSM along with some along with some SMVs. And the SSM performed with the same range that the SMVs did. I was very happy.
Yes.
And actually, the scene turned into like an incredibly physical comedy scene where that wasn't scripted that way. So we were grateful to have a small pack.
Got it.
Yeah, it was great.
Now we were talking about the input stage a second, the audio input stage. On the LT, there's even a switch menu choice. Menu choice so that your input jack turns into a high impedance guitar instrument input. Now previously for the UM400 SM series, we offered a little cable with a guitar connector on an active cable, guitar 1/4 inch on one end, and built into that end of it was a little FET amplifier, and that gave you the high impedance load.
Right. And a little gain.
And some gain, right? Yeah. And this transmitter doesn't need that adapter cable. You could plug a guitar right in. So again, a menu selected option.
And that's in both the LT and the LMB?
No, just in the LT.
Just in the LT?
Just in the LT.
Interesting. All right.
They both do have also infrared communication with, at this point, our new, and this I guess is the point where we can show the LR receiver, which is the new entry into the receiver side of things. And this was designed from the get-go to be essentially a miniature UCR 411A. I don't know if miniature is the right word, but if we had a 411A next to this, it would look remarkably smaller.
It's smaller, yeah. I mean, the only thing that the 411A has that this doesn't, and I'll just show this to the camera, is that, as you can see, the display is on the front, and the 411A, the display would have been on the top.
Exactly, and that's okay for maybe certain types of smaller video cameras where you might mount it on the top.
Right.
But it doesn't work well in a sleeve. So we have projects that will result in other form factors that
very good to know.
will be good for this.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, good. And now the fact that the guitar circuitry is built into the LT, is that to do with the fact that there's a bunch of guitar players that are engineers at Lectrosonics?
There certainly are a bunch, and
Uh-huh.
I happen to be among them. But
Good.
yeah.
Good. Good to know. All right. And by the way, Dweedle tones on all the transmitters?
Most of them, yes. Not the LMB.
Okay.
Do you want to define Dweedle tones? Since
Sure.
I don't say it that way, but
Oh, the Dweedle tones for me are the little DTMF blurps that change frequency or change level or can put the transmitters to sleep. There's a piece of hardware that Lectro sells. There are apps you can get for it. So those are Dweedle tones. They work sonically through whatever lav is plugged into the transmitter. It can result in disaster if it goes out over a PA system.
or a good thing too. I mean, I've seen sets where everybody was going to lunch and the Dweedle tone over the PA put everybody's transmitters to sleep.
Oh, that's
So it's
there's
but
positives. Yeah.
even more amazing than that, I've met people who have learned to sing the Dweedle tones.
Wow.
And actually make them with their own voice.
Wow. At drop frame or non-drop frame?
Both.
All right. Wow.
Pull up and pull down as well.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and just so that I don't get taken out of context, that was a joke. Great. Okay.
Good. Wow. So you have a PowerPoint presentation we've only scratched the surface of.
It's not strictly PowerPoint, but it serves the same function.
Got it.
So I think what we were hoping to touch upon was where the bands might end up after the auction.
Oh, good. All right.
And this is a graphic provided by the FCC. And it represents a bunch of possible outcomes. On the top line, the outcome is representing what happens if 7 TV channels are recovered from the 600s.
And this is, wait, we should say this is per market.
This is unpredictable, and each market will have a different result.
Okay.
So just like today, each market has its own set of in-use TV frequency channels.
Right.
New York, we have 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, you know.
Right.
But Milwaukee's got a totally different. So just in that same vein, each city will have its own footprint of TV stations.
So one city might have only 7 channels that were sold at auction, but another city might have 11.
Right, and it's unpredictable.
Right.
That's why it's an auction. You can't predict the outcome of an
Got
auction,
it.
right? So the FCC published this in order to illustrate, if you will, what might happen in different cities. And one of these probably will happen in each city, one of these scenarios. So from the lightest case of the top line, where it's still channels up to 44 are still available, to what you might call a worst case, which we might not see anywhere, but that would be down on the bottom line, and up to channel 26 only would remain. So likely, depending on the city, you'll be somewhere in the middle.
And, excuse me, will there be one known good channel that people can buy wireless mics in that'll work across the country, like remember the traveling frequencies?
You know, the result of this auction actually, more than ever before, bifurcates the community into licensed versus unlicensed operators. And the answer for those two groups is different. So if you're a licensed operator, there will be almost like one TV channel, but it's actually 4 megahertz wide, preserved for you in all the markets.
And it's the same 4 megahertz throughout
No, it depends on the outcome of the auction.
Okay, but once the dust settles from the auction, it'll
be known.
It'll be known, and it'll be the same 4 megahertz, but each auction is different in each market.
Right, exactly.
So it's still not the same.
So what will happen is there'll probably be radios that are able to tune into any one of those. And where they exist is what's called the duplex gap. So in the spectrum that we're talking about, the 600s, there's a section above this gap, and there's a section below it, and we're separating the uplink and downlink.
Yeah, just so people know, the services that would be used here, there'd be a component where your handheld device would talk to the tower, a tower, and the tower would talk back to your handheld device, and those are two different frequencies.
Right.
And so
Right.
the uplink is from your handheld to the tower, and downlink
Right.
is tower to handheld.
Right.
And there has to be a gap just to have them separate.
Right. They don't like to get close to each other.
And
so
we, as licensed users only, can
Yeah.
operate in that gap.
that's right. So if we look closely at that gap on this graphic, you'll see that there's a 4 megahertz licensed wireless microphone section to it. And then there's the green section is for white space devices and unlicensed microphones to operate, but that's shared between them.
Uh-huh.
And white space devices are another whole topic,
Uh-huh.
but it's a new type of device that will, essentially be on a chip that lives in a cell phone or perhaps a laptop computer.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll give an additional band to that device to do data and perhaps cellular communications.
I mean, yeah, this is way off topic, but
Yes.
it seems to me that the way the cell phone manufacturers and operators are moving is the ability to go in both licensed and unlicensed spectrum and hand the calls off simultaneously between both. That they're going to build devices that can both be a white space device and also talk on this on this licensed spectrum. That just is a general observation
Yeah,
that
well,
I'm making. That
These white space devices will have places where they can operate protected from TV
Right.
signals, and they can operate in TV band if there's a white space, meaning unused television channel.
But I'm saying also that, and this is way off topic,
Okay.
but I'm starting to see devices that can hand a call off from the cellular network
To Wi-Fi.
over Wi-Fi and
Yes.
back again, depending on what's
Automatically.
around. And it seems to me the direction this is all heading is that the carriers don't want to build out as much infrastructure as the demand requires.
Right.
And so they can hand it off to a white space part of the spectrum or their
I see what
licensed
you're
spectrum.
saying. Right.
And it'll be in the same device.
Yes.
All right.
And it'll also create bigger pipes, if you will, for data
Right.
at the same time.
They can aggregate it as
That's
needed.
right.
Yeah. All right. So everybody really does need to get a license. Are they?
Well,
are they
everybody who's eligible.
but
Yes.
are they increasing the eligibility sort of, I don't know how you'd say, loosening the eligibility requirements or
No,
casting
they're
a wider net?
no, not for licensed operators. No.
All right. Not even for like Broadway productions or anything like
Yes,
that? All right.
they are already provided for, and they will continue to be.
All right. Good.
Um,
So who is eligible?
well, essentially, broadcasters are eligible. Anybody who holds the Part 73 license to broadcast.
So if you have a big transmitter, you can get licensed for your little transmitter.
Right,
Got
and
it.
production companies that are employed to create content for those entities are eligible for licenses.
Could we successfully make an argument that as agents of those production companies, sound mixers are eligible as well?
I believe that's something that might actually be a very important element in this, that rental companies would apply for licenses for the radios.
Got it.
Yeah, it's a great service that a rental company can provide.
Sure. Good.
There's in addition to those little bands in the duplex gap, there's additional frequencies, additional bands available. On either side of channel 37, there'll be 2 megahertz for unlicensed wireless mics.
Okay.
And that's not shared with white space devices.
So if a person were looking to buy wireless mics that would operate from now over the next, say, 4 or 5 years, buying it around TV37 might not be the worst idea in the world?
That would leave them those 2 slices.
All right. If they were licensed users, they would have many more options, or they'd have a couple more options.
There's more options. For instance, the FCC increased the 941 to 960 band. It was 944 to 952,
Mm-hmm.
and now it'll be 941 to 960.
Including, and that's for Part 74 users?
That's for licensed, or what you might call Part 74 users.
And then just so that we can be as clear as possible, Part 73 users are the broadcasters with the big transmitters, I'll call them. And Part 74 users are the motion picture producers, Broadway users, sound mixers who are their agents,
Right.
and rental companies those are Part 74 users.
Yeah.
Part 73 users are often Part 74 users,
Sure.
but Part 74 users are not necessarily Part 73 users.
Right.
Okay. But if you are Part 73, you have even more frequencies eligible.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So it's going to be interesting in 4 years, but still we'll be in business using wireless microphones and producing them. But over the next few years, people should start to understand and get to know where they're going, and what choices make sense now to make for the future.
Got it. Got it. This is what slide are we looking at here?
This is a series of what bands will be legal after the auction for different types of users, Part 74 and Part 15. So we're going to make all of this available.
Oh, good.
In a very general sense. So today was just brought up as a general thing, but
Sure.
we might even want to do another broadcast and get much more detailed
I would love
about
to.
any of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
All right, good. Yeah. I mean, I think this has been super informative already.
Great.
Good.
So so part of the good news is we have wider tuning now, and when we do eventually have a different band plan for wireless mics, we'll have better choices because the tuning range is much wider.
Got it.
It'll be more versatile.
Sure, and more likely to be able to use in different markets.
Right, as you move from one market to the other, exactly.
Sure. All right, so March 19th.
March 29th,
March 29th.
2016.
That's a big day for us.
Yeah, we won't know the answer that day, but yeah.
But soon after.
Soon
that
after
day.
that, right.
All right. So I don't know. Is there any questions that people have? Oh, there's questions.
They're coming in hot and furious.
All right. So Baldev, hi Baldev. You are asking user selectable frequencies. When will this feature be implemented in LR?
User selectable, you mean a custom list?
Custom list. Yeah. Yeah. I assume that's what Baldev's
Well,
talking.
that should already be.
In the SR.
Well, if you have the appropriate
latest
software.
firmware.
Yeah.
That's not the factory calling, telling
It's
us to
actually my
cut it.
son.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. All right.
Maybe he's watching. He has a question. No.
All right. We'll wrap it up soon. Any other questions? Baldev, did that answer your question? I hope.
Best thing to do is contact customer support.
And that's how you get the latest firmware. And do you have to do anything special? You just request you just say, I need the new firmware to have these new features?
Well, there's a little program that actually you run on your PC that you use to do the updates.
And on the LR, do you need any special hardware for that to go from the PC to the LR?
No, the LR has a little USB port on it. A mini USB.
Nice.
Right on the side.
Sweet.
Right over there. As do the transmitters, by the way.
And that's strictly for firmware updates.
Yes.
Good.
Strictly for firmware updates. Any other questions that you see coming in?
Oh yeah, there's lots. Chris Leon, hey Chris, any idea when a wideband SR will be released?
I have an idea, but my boss will fire me if I make it public.
Aha.
I apologize. Yes, it's coming.
A wideband SR.
Absolutely.
How wide?
Similar to...
A, B, C. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's not imminent, but it will come.
All right. All right. Wow, what other information can we get out of you? It's a good thing we drugged you before we went on the air.
Yeah, what was that drug?
No, it was just a drink. Don't worry about it. All right. And All right. Well, there's all kinds of questions I could ask.
So in
about,
general,
what's in
our
the factory?
future will
What's
be
happening?
moving toward the wider tuning
So
for all the reasons we just discussed.
We could take a look at the whole range of Lectro products, and there's probably an equivalent wideband.
At some point, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We're a small company, so we can only crank out new products, when we can.
Right.
It's not an unlimited pool of engineers, and these products take a lot of design time,
Yes.
as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Any other questions? All right. I would love to see Dante and Venue combined.
Thank you. So would I.
That would be
Absolutely great
And
idea.
then
Yes.
can we talk also? I'd love to be able to have control over that venue, ideally using Yamaha protocol and some other open protocol, in addition to Yamaha native control.
Yeah, that would be a very worthy effort for us to make.
So we'll see it next week.
We can dream.
All
Yes.
right. All right. I think if that's all the questions, we will go through. As always, these are available at vimeo.com/GothamSound. Our next stream, this is important, is Thursday, October 8th. Not Tuesday, but Thursday, October 8th, and we will be talking about antennas with Brian Dembinski. Keep your ideas coming, info@gothamsound.com. We'd love to hear from you. So that's it for now, and thanks, Howard.
Thank you. It was great.